Hello, 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 Pop Girlies. Yeah, yeah. What is
Welcome.
up?
Whoa, who was that?
Should I talk like this the entire time?
Because it's boy
Yeah.
music.
Yes, boy. Yes,
For a
this is.
second there, you were RuPaul. You said hello, hello, hello.
Oh, I know. Hello, hello, hello.
Yeah.
That I feel like was me, like Jessica Wilde doing RuPaul. Have you
Yeah,
seen that Snatch Game? Hers is so
yeah.
funny. I almost said Jessica Simpson instead of Jessica Wilde.
Oh my gosh.
Well, how are the Pop Girlies doing?
I hope you guys know that the Pop Girlies are recording this
Yeah.
hours after the news. We were supposed to go to the Eusexua tour tomorrow, and
And what happened,
due
Drew?
to due to unforeseen circumstances, our show has been moved to the summer and going from an indoor venue to outdoor venue.
I'm
So
pissed. Like,
I'm
what the
pissed.
hell?
We're all
We
pissed.
are very upset.
How does this? I just don't understand how it happens the day
We
before.
kind of want answers. Like, we hope she's okay, obviously. We hope
I'm
everyone's okay, but
also,
we do want answers.
yeah, I obviously hope everyone's okay. I am a little annoyed though that like there's not like been like an Instagram story or
Yeah, nothing.
like we shouldn't be finding out from the venue.
Yeah, no acknowledgement from Miss Girl that the show
I
was
mean,
on.
obviously, hope everything's okay. You know, you don't know what is happening in everyone's life, but this is a pattern for Miss Twigs.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
apparently she like this is kind of something I've seen on Twitter that something that she like does.
Oh my God, you guys, she posted on her story 15 minutes ago.
Oh,
what'd she say?
what'd she
I don't know.
say?
We're recording the podcast right now, so I don't know what she said.
Well, can you
Well,
not look
open
in your
it.
story? Open it.
Well, it's a video of her talking, so I would have to play.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's up in the air. Like,
Okay, I'll mute and watch it. You guys talk, and I'll
okay, yeah, because we
come
need to
back.
report live as to why this
Yeah.
We
concert is
need
not
to do on
happening.
the ground reporting. I
Yeah.
know, but I'm so disappointed. Maria, had you already figured out your outfit?
I had an idea, but I didn't try it on because I like how she's been doing a lot of just kind of like the like Capezio like dance wear for the
Mm-hmm.
concerts, it's just like very functional like athletic dance wear. So I have a shirt that's kind of just like a very like neutral kind of like matches my skin tone. So I was gonna do that and then like a black skirt. And then I have a lot of
Oh,
like
cute.
clunkety like silver jewelry that I was planning on wearing. So so yeah, just like trying to fit the vibe, but obviously not like
Yeah.
as eccentric as I'm sure other people would have, met her on her level on. So that was my plan though. But I mean, yours is way more interesting. You should tell the audience what you were planning on wearing.
Well, I was planning on wearing my Drowned World Tour tank top, a Madonna tank top, which is obviously a reference to the song on Eusexua that sounds just like Madonna. But then underneath it, I have this like long sleeve, like mesh rhinestone sparkly shirt. And so it was going to be that underneath the Drowned World tank top. And yeah, it was going to be, we were going to be serving so much Eusexua. The
Yeah.
air was going to reek of the Eusexuality.
Yeah. And like I don't think people would have been prepared for the
No,
drowned world tank of it all.
no.
And like
For the ha
if the listeners need to like reference what we're talking about, just please go look it up because the shirt is severe.
It's
It's
like
it's so
it's
good.
everything.
It's
I mean, it
so
really is
everything.
everything. Like
Oh,
it's one of my most prized possessions.
yeah.
That's
Because
the shirt that I wore to ring in the New Year. That's what I wore New Year's Eve.
yes, that's right. Oh
The
my
first
God.
thing I wore in 2020 was the Drowned World tank top.
Stars talk about starting on the right foot.
Well, that night was so much fun too because I was with a group of my friends at this dance party called Queen, and they just play like kind of like house music,
Yeah.
like dance music, and I like had all these Madonna songs stuck in my head, so I just started singing them, and there were some people who didn't appreciate it. Let's just say that
Imagine. I can't.
they don't get it. Okay, Drew, what's the tea?
You guys are gonna be pissed.
Why?
So her production team did not fill out the proper paperwork to bring the set over to North America. So it is not her doing. She literally, her production team just I'm guessing just fucked up and didn't. So there's no way for, and so all of the North American shows are being rescheduled.
Girl, people are getting fired.
Girl,
Yeah.
now hiring, now hiring.
Should we go work on the Eusexual tour?
Should we work for FK Twigs?
I mean, there's some jobs open. We know that for a
I
fact.
mean, we would do a better fucking job than whatever idiot did. That is crazy.
Imagine
Uh-huh.
ruining an entire
Or
tour
tour.
because you didn't fill out paperwork.
Justin Timberlake, this is gonna ruin the tour.
This is gonna it did
The
ruin.
world tour.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Wow. Oh, I feel so bad for her. We were
That's
just talking
awful.
shit, but Twigs, I love you. I've
And
never seen
everyone on the
anything.
subreddit's like, this is so like her. Like, I'm done with her.
But also, like, girl, come on. Who did you hire to do this?
Yeah.
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
Also, like, girl, you did you not have time to check to have your assistant check over the paperwork? Like, I don't know.
Wow. That is nuts.
I would like to hope that like they only canceled the dates the day before because they were working until the 11th hour to see if they could make it work. You know what I mean?
They've been in the customs line forever, girl.
That's
Because
so interesting.
I don't know if you guys like saw any of the like set features that she's
It
got,
was a lot.
like a lot. So
I'm like, I don't think she's making that much money because
oh,
there's so many dancers too, and the set is insane. And she's doing like acrobatic shit, and our tickets weren't like that expensive.
Well, she just loves the music, not the bling.
Right. But I'm like, is she losing money?
Well, I think probably now she is.
No, definitely. But like,
girl. I
yeah,
wonder if
Wow.
when they get this straightened out, they're gonna like add more dates in new cities.
probably because she'll probably need it.
I mean, yeah.
You don't have the income coming in anymore.
She just owes now.
No, do you guys know what that is?
No.
Oh,
No.
I love, did you know Boston CEO? Do you know that person?
Is that the
The
uh
TikToker. And
yeah, well,
she,
what's the
and
quote? What's the quote? What are
you
they?
are now one of my elite employees.
Yes, 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 yes.
Oh, well, Boston CEO, if you ever want to laugh, go look her up. Look her up. Well, should we get into this episode now that
Yeah,
we're
let's
done with
get in.
our morning? K
It's
Drew,
time.
give us your hot track.
Okay,
What song have you been on to?
I've been having, this is like probably the hardest I have ever had to choose. That's not a sentence, but um,
Yeah, that's not.
I'm getting it.
you
I'm
getting
getting
it?
it.
So I've been listening to a lot and a lot of different things. But ultimately I'm gonna go with a new album that I discovered that I'm like kind of obsessed with. Um, it's the Ryan Beatty album,
Mm.
Calico. I was texting Levi about this, but his song White Teeth, I'm gonna say that is my hot track. I'm just gonna say it.
Say it.
Say it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that album a lot. Like I haven't really stopped listening to it besides to listen to this album. So like since I discovered it, which was on Saturday, so like for the past few days, I have not stopped listening. So
I don't know if I've ever heard of this person.
He
he's
worked on Cowboy
amazing.
Carter.
Yeah.
Oh,
Grammy winner, which you can hear a lot of like a lot of the production. I was like, oh, I can tell where Ryan Beatty worked on Cowboy Carter.
Yeah, he's this amazing gay artist, and he kind of started, I think his career originally like he was kind of like set to be like a Justin Bieber type of like teen star, and then that just like didn't work out, and he ended up kind of doing his own thing.
I
And
think
he's really
he came
cool.
up on Vine, right?
Oh, did he?
I think I don't not 100% sure. But I
Yeah,
looked him up on YouTube to see if there were any like interviews, which he doesn't do a lot of, but there was a lot of Vine compilations.
Huh.
that's funny.
Yeah,
No,
but
he's
no,
cool.
he's
He's really
great.
cool.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Love.
Maria.
Yeah. Well, yesterday we were hit with some pretty exciting news that not only is Ethel Cain going on a tour, but she's releasing her what I think is technically her second album within the
Yeah,
Ethel Cain project. I
because
guess
the
like
perverts,
Perverts doesn't
perverts was
count.
like, what is perverts? Is it just a
I don't
project?
know.
I
Like
suppose
a
Bad.
I don't I don't think
God,
it's supposed I don't think it's intended for like the Ethel Cain
like universe.
storyline.
Not a
Yeah, okay.
so not a studio album, I guess. Or did she
Yeah,
call it that?
no, because she referred to it as her next project. But then with
Okay,
this
okay.
post, she called the new album her second studio album.
Okay.
Right.
Ah, dang, I should have like read into that because I was thinking perverts was gonna be like a huge thing and it wasn't at all.
Well, no.
Oh, girl. Because like I mean it was just funny because we were speculating of well Ethel Cain was like teasing tour like she was like having like kind of teasers at the venues that were eventually like the announced venues for this tour. And I'm like, girl, if she's gonna tour with the Ambient Perverts album, then I'm just fully not gonna be in attendance. Like I'm glad that it's for some people and they're into it, but it's like I just don't I'm totally fine to miss it if that's the tour, if it's the ambient tour. But I mean, I think this is gonna be such a crazy, insane serve because
Yeah.
I think the album, which is called Willoughby Tucker, I'll Always Love You, I
Such a
believe,
Levi Bait
Yeah, it's one of the
album
greatest
title,
titles I've ever
first of
heard in my
all.
entire
I
life.
mean, girl, that's so
Wait,
lovely.
I saw this. Oh, I think you guys shared it. That tweet that was like they thought that the album cover was Taylor as a like coming out as non-binary.
Yeah.
It was like scrolled too fast on Twitter and thought it Taylor Swift was coming
It's like an
out.
NB. That's so
Can be.
funny.
Yeah, but so I suppose the album is supposed to be like a prequel album. Like it's supposed to be her relationship with Willoughby before like anything like in like the actual storyline within Preacher's Daughter happens.
Wait, so is Willoughby the guy in Preacher's Daughter?
Not the
Willoughby,
second
there's
guy. He's
three. There's three
yeah.
guys in Preacher's Daughter. Willoughby is the subject of A House in
House
Nebraska.
in Nebraska.
Drew.
Yeah. Gag on that. Gag on
Gag.
that, Drew.
Yeah, so that's my hot track is A House in Nebraska because I listened to that song
Because
the second this got announced.
and Maria, what are we still praying for? What are we still
House in
praying for?
Oh,
Nebraska.
stop. You guys need to stop with that shit. I literally when she brings we have to do a Preacher's Daughter episode like fast.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. We'll never forget texting the Pop Girlies while listening to that on the first time for the first time on a plane.
Oh, legendary. I
Mentally ill.
I think what I suppose is now like a scrapped project of hers was adapting Preacher's Daughter into a novel, which I would have been so down to read. But
Would be
it
a
sounds like
great stage thing too.
yeah. I mean, it sounds like she was kind of not no longer interested in living exclusively within what happens in Preacher's Daughter, which is fair. You know, like that's totally fair. But would have been so down to read it. But I'm so excited for the new. I just think it's gonna be so good, and I'm kind of
Yeah.
because it just doesn't seem like it would give itself in to be as dark as Preacher's Daughter is. I don't know. I'm just kind of it seems
I
like it
know
might
I'm
be
excited, but like
yeah.
this is also still somebody like that narrator. While this would have happened, is still be like, I mean, still like getting like abused by her father. Like that's part of like her story,
Right.
like that. So like, there's still probably, I'm sure, going to be like darkness.
Right.
Yeah, no, I'm fascinated. It's going to be so cool to figure
Yeah.
out
I
what she's got
also
cooking.
I can't wait till we eventually do Preacher's Daughter on the pod because all of our moms having to listen to it will be like insane.
I don't. Oh God.
I'm
Wow. I
Like
I'm
just felt
gonna
they
that.
have to listen to it for the lore.
I'm gonna put my mom's YouTube on like kids mode so she can't even fuck. Yeah, it's insanity, but that's my hot track and so excited
Great
for
hot
the
track.
album.
Oh my
So
God.
Levi,
Great. Well, I knew both of your guys' songs. I don't know if anyone's gonna know my song. So this is an artist that I have talked about before in the podcast, Samia. She is getting ready to release her third studio album in a few weeks. The album's going to be called Bloodless, and I have been loving all the singles so far. I'm actually going to be seeing her in June with one of my dear friends and my old roommate Garvin, and I'm really really excited about it. And there's this song that I'm obsessed with called Lizard, and yeah, I don't really feel like I have a lot to say other than I just love the songwriting. I love the like vibe. I think like this album so far has been like a little less like polished and a little like rougher around the edges than the last album, which was like I think a bit more pristine. And I love that last album, Honey. It's incredible. But yeah, Sammy is just like a really cool artist. She has a really incredible, interesting voice, and her like perspective as a songwriter is just I think really cool. So Lizard by Samia, get into it. Yeah, get into it.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh my
And
gosh.
that I think is the hot track time. I think we're ready to get into the album.
Yes. Well, it's me. I'm hosting another episode. We're talking
Oh,
about an album. It's back to Maria.
what
So
was that voice?
I don't know. I didn't really think I was putting on a voice, but
Uh, okay.
Okay.
I don't
You just
know.
sounded completely different than how you
It's
normally do.
me. Hi. It's another episode
Yeah,
with
like
Maria.
that is literally what you just sounded like.
Okay. Okay.
Oh,
Well,
Do it again.
you did it again.
do it again. Sorry. Okay. I guess I'm just nervous. I don't know. I don't know.
You're too
Well,
fucking Jeff.
we're just guys. I'm just gonna okay. Starting it off, this is a place for legends. Let's just say that. This is an iconic, legendary album. I'm so excited to get into it with the both of you. But yeah, we're talking about Grace by Jeff Buckley. Iconic musician, iconic songs, iconic legacy, legends. So, if we're all ready, let's get into it. I feel like it's kind of necessary to go into like a little bit more background about Jeff Buckley specifically before we kind of talk about the album. But I mean, it all is kind of one big cohesive story because his career was, as many people know, extremely short-lived and very, you know, cut short very tragically. So, um, Jeff Buckley was originally from Anaheim, California. And very notably, he was the son of singer-songwriter Tim Buckley, and they had an estranged relationship. Like he had only met I believe they had only met like once when Jeff was like 8 or so. And Tim actually had an untimely death himself, and died of a drug overdose in 1975. And very, also notably, and what kind of ended up being something of a launch pad for Jeff's career was there was kind of like a tribute concert after Tim Buckley's funeral that Jeff performed at and sang a couple of his songs, which ended up being like was very, very like I mean very emotional, but was also just very interesting because they didn't have a relationship. And Jeff was kind of quoted as saying that he didn't do it because he wanted to use it as a platform to start his career or anything like that, or didn't he didn't want the attention for doing it because they had such, a an estranged relationship, but he kind of wanted that to be like his final like dialogue with his dad that he, hadn't really met before. So there's actually recordings that you can listen to on YouTube of him performing at the tribute concert. So in case you're curious, like his performance of the song that's called "I Never Asked to Be Your Mountain" is really interesting because it's actually a song that Tim wrote about like Jeff as an infant and his mother. So that's a very moving and unique performance. And I mean, I'm sure as you guys have gotten used to from just Jeff as a performer, it's all so insanely emotive and moving and just crazy. So those performances are really, really interesting. But when Jeff was growing up, like he was always surrounded by music. He was introduced by his stepfather to Led Zeppelin, Queen, Jimi Hendrix, The Who, Pink Floyd, etc. Led Zeppelin's Physical Graffiti was the first album that he owned. So he was always very, very immersed in rock music. Got his first electric guitar around the age of 12. So was very much like part of this music world from like a very young age. He was also noted as saying that he was really influenced by like Joni Mitchell, The Smiths, Susie and the Banshees, so like those kinds of rock groups. So he had eventually moved to New York and started performing in a lot of cafes. So very notably, and where he essentially had a residency was a cafe on the Lower East Side called Chenet, which we were talking about this before we started, but the likes of many people performed here who would eventually become famous, Lady Gaga being one of them. So naturally, I had to include that. But yeah, he would perform there. He had Mondays as like a residency there, so he would perform there like every Monday night. He like also just like fully worked there, so he would like do the dishes, clean all the tables, and perform there. So it's just so incredible to think that people had the experience of like seeing Jeff Buckley just perform at this cafe and you would eventually become this just insane, awesome musician. So yeah, super cool. And he eventually just started to get a little bit more attention from like record companies. So like literally limousines would pull up at this cafe, like hoping to talk to him and sign him. So he had eventually signed with Columbia, and his first studio album, which would become his only studio album, like released in full, while he was alive, was Grace. So it came out in August of 1994, and was mostly recorded in Woodstock, New York. And it's categorized as alternative rock, folk rock, and jazz rock. And it's almost an hour long. It's like 8 minutes shy of an hour. And was produced by Andy Wallace and Jeff Buckley himself for specifically for So Real, that song. Um, and I feel like the singles are also really interesting. Like Grace was the lead single, Last Goodbye, So Real, and then Eternal Life. So I just think this album's so interesting because you kind of instantly categorize it as just like something that's like very rock focused. And then you get like the Lilac Wine cover or something like Corpus Christi Carol, and you get like so much, there's so much more layers within this album that I think are immediately present. So um such a cool collage of all this different kinds of music with the main through line, of course, being rock. But yeah, this album again does have Lilac Wine on here, as and it's more so in the style of Nina Simone's version of it. Does also very notably have a cover of Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah, and then the hymn, the 15th, I believe, 15th century hymn, Corpus Christi Carol. So he did tour this album a whole bunch. He toured North America quite a bit and also toured a bit in the UK. And there's actually really interestingly, one of the most notable of his live performances, period, is his performance that was at the Metro here in Chicago. And I think that you can watch it in full, like probably somewhere on YouTube, like probably bootlegged or something. But that's like noted as one of his like most iconic performances. And that's so close to where we are, which is so cool. So yeah, I would also say that I mean, I think his lyricism across this entire thing is just so deep, it's so dense, and it's so interesting and so insanely poetic. I feel like it's so rare that someone this talented when it comes to songwriting and lyricism. Like it's so rare that someone this talented comes along. So it's just such an awesome experience to just listen to the lyrics and listen to how all of this is crafted together. Um, I also wanted to say notably that there's a couple places across the country that do like annual Jeff Buckley tribute shows, and one of them being Uncommon Ground that's also here in Chicago. It's a like a smaller chain of restaurants. I think there's three, maybe three, two or three, but there's one on Clark that's right in Wrigleyville, and I think it's like every November, so kind of just wanted to shout that out because my roommate and I wanted to go so bad last year and just didn't work out. But hey, maybe this year you'll find me at the Jeff Buckley tribute show because I really want to go. But just wanted to mention that. I thought that was kind of fun. Um, but I also wanted to say notably, because I mean the subjects of this album in general is like it's a lot of, relationship stuff. And Levi, I don't know if you know this, but Jeff Buckley and Elizabeth Fraser of Cocteau Twins were in a relationship, like a very intense relationship for quite a while.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And they recorded a song together that has still never been commercially released.
Is it heard? Like, can people access it? Like, has it
Yeah,
been leaked?
I think you can like listen to it on YouTube. Um,
Interesting.
but yeah, that's tea.
Interesting. That, I mean, that makes sense, kind of. I see the vision.
Right.
Girl, both a cuckoo.
Yeah. So, um, let me just see here. But yeah, I mean, something too that's really obvious when you go look at his discography on like streaming platforms and stuff. A lot of his music has been posthumous released or just like live recordings that weren't released while he was still alive are released. And what's essentially regarded as his second album, which is called Sketches for My Sweetheart the Drunk, like you can listen to that. It's like put together as an album. That was also a posthumous release, but that's kind of where you can also listen to some of his other original material aside from all of these live recordings that we now can listen to. So also as far as the, you know, kind of the history of all of this is, just also wanted to mention, just in case any of our listeners do not know the story, because I have alluded multiple times to him no longer being alive. He did have a quite a tragic death. He went swimming one night in a river in Memphis and drowned on accident. So yeah, really, really sad. But that's yeah, just kind of the story there. But such an insane legacy. I mean, this is I would confidently say one of the best albums ever. And I do think it's really incredible that there's still other bits of his music that we get to listen to, like other releases that weren't finished that we get to listen to. I just endlessly wonder what other kind of art we would have gotten to experience from him if he was still with us. But yeah, such an iconic album. I think some of the most creative lyricism is on this album, and it's extremely highly regarded critically. um and it's interesting, like we usually talk about like the aggregate scores like for Metacritic and stuff. I feel like this one kind of like the scores kind of get skewed because a lot of what publications review is uh like the legacy versions of this, which include like so many random B-sides and live versions. And I wish that they would just score like the standard edition. And I feel like it kind of mucks up some of the like critical reception at a glance. I mean, but obviously like listen to it and form your own opinion. But yeah, that's just something where I'm like, kind of wish it was a little bit different. But yeah, very much regarded as one of the best albums of all time. It's I believe in the actually, it was 147 on the 2022 edition of Rolling Stone's 500 greatest albums of all time. So there you have it. So yeah, I feel like that's my background. I don't think we've really ever talked about music quite like this before, and I know this isn't your guys' typical forte, so really interested to hear what you guys thought of the whole experience. And I know because I've talked about it before on the pod and made a big stink of it that and now that you guys have heard the full album, I think we all realize, and I know Drew, you referenced this earlier this week, how amazing Reeve Carney would have been in a Jeff Buckley biopic.
Yeah, like perfect
Yeah.
casting.
They look exactly alike.
They look so incredibly alike, and Reeve Carney is such a talented singer, and I feel like he has that like folky sensibility to him that Jeff kind of had, and it literally would have been perfect, and they had his mother's blessing on it, so it's just so upsetting that it didn't happen, but it's okay. It's okay.
Maybe it will happen.
Can you tomorrow? Tomorrow they announce it with a poster.
Trailer
It
drops
would
right
be
now.
so good.
The trailer just dropped. The trailer just dropped, and Twigs is like, "Hey, by the way, the concerts are back on."
And
We got
actually, Pop
approval.
Girlies are coming on stage and performing Drums of Death with her.
Ugh.
Yes. Okay. Well, let's have Levi go first.
I knew you were gonna pick me. Oh, I'm kind of like, I feel like normally I banter a bit more, but just like thinking about this album and like hearing what you had to share, Maria, thank you so much for preparing that. It just kind of like puts a heavy mood on you. This album to me, the
Yeah.
first thing that comes to my mind is rich and heavy. Like, I'm not saying like equivalent, like taste wise, but like, you know how like when like you're eating like a really rich, beautiful, dense like chocolate cake and like you can only have like piece by piece. Like, I
Hmm.
have found it so interesting to enter this musical world because it's so not similar to things I normally listen to. And this is my first experience listening to a full Jeff Buckley project and I guess his only full length project. Obviously, I'd heard Miss Hallelujah cover before,
Yeah.
but it's been so interesting entering this musical world. But I found it almost like overwhelming at points. Like when I've been listening to this record, I've had to listen to it in phases. It's been a very hard thing for me to listen to it straight through. And I think part of that is like the songs are long. And like it's not a saying of like I think they need to be shorter. They are long songs, and they're very dense. I think lyrically, the lyrics we'll get into that in a sec, but like they are. I mean, you know what they are, Maria. They're incredible, but
Yeah.
they're packed, and then just the emotional intensity of these songs, like it's a lot, and it is like it just has left me feeling very like I don't know the right word for it. I'm not sure if I have the right word for it. Just like I feel kind of like there's a weight to talking about this record, I think. And I think part of that is the fact that like this kind of became by not by like purpose, not on purpose, but this became his final statement to the world. I mean, this is his first full statement to the world and also his last one. And there's always so much tragedy in losing anyone young, but especially, you know, somebody who was so gifted and talented, and had so much more to give. So it just, I don't know, it just makes me very sad that like we didn't get to like see his talents go further and evolve. So the record, it is very good. I mean, like there's just like no other way to like it's a very, very good album. Um, I think like the thing that struck me initially was kind of unexpectedly because normally, you know me, I'm songwriting, songwriting, songwriting. We'll get to the songwriting in a second because it's pretty incredible. But I am in love with the production on this album. That is like, wow. I mean, I love me some 90s. I love me some like 90s, like alt guitars. I love that. but I was not expecting the warmth that this album has. Like there
Uh-huh.
were there are moments with these acoustic guitars that reminded me of like Sixpence None the Richer or like the Cranberries. Like there are these
Right.
like really warm, beautiful strumming acoustic guitars, but then these songs like they go so many different unexpected places and like you can like start a song like I think both Grace and Last Goodbye, I think they both kind of start with like this like very like beautiful strumming, and then by the end we're like in intense rock mode. And I mean I think Mojo Pin kind of works as a perfect opening album track because it like kind of contains all the multitudes of the album in one song. I mean, it
Yeah.
starts off as this like very hushed lullaby and he's singing so sweetly, and then, there gets a bit more intensity and there gets a bit more of a rocking vibe. And by the end, like he's wailing and the guitars feel so heavy and they feel so urgent. There really is such an emotional intensity and such a sonic intensity of the album. But I just really think the arrangements here are beautiful. And like it's put me in such like a warm, fuzzy mood of like listening to this like 90s sound that I love so much. And God, just I don't know. I don't think I would have liked to have been alive in the 90s. Well, I was alive in the 90s, but for like more than 2 months. I don't think I would have liked to like be like an adult in the 90s just with like I don't know. There is just something about like music in the 90s and like kind of like the music culture that existed that doesn't really exist anymore that I do think I have kind of this like weird like nostalgia is not the right word, but like I like wish that like I could experience that. I know Marie, you
Yeah.
love a lot of like this kind of music from the 90s, so I'm sure that you could like maybe relate to that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting because being like somewhat well versed in like, oh, well, like this is like what the 90s in music sounded like, or this is what a given decade in music sounded like. Like you can like even though we didn't experience it, we can still like listen to so much of it and know so much about it. But there isn't like nostalgia in the same way that it's like more of a novelty for people our age to be like, oh, like, well, I understand like this is such a 90s sound,
Mm,
but then you're like kind of reveling in the like the novelty of it all is like kind of how
hmm.
I think of it of like, I could listen to something that it like the most 80s whatever, like something that's like so stereotypical 80s synth pop, whatever, this and that. And then I'm like, ugh, that's such an 80s sound. It's like, well, okay, girl, you weren't gonna be alive for another 20 years. But
Yeah,
then it's like,
exactly.
but it's like I still know what the tea is. Like I still know that that's what it is. But it's like, yeah, I do my homework, but it's like more of a novelty.
Yes. Yes, you worded that so much more eloquently than I did. So thank you for rescuing the day, like always. Yeah, and then getting into the lyrics. I mean, I was listening to this album for the first time with the lyrics pulled up, and there were just so many times that like my eyes widened and I was like, "Oh my God." And I knew from the very first song, Mojo Pin, which I just talked about, and I think it's one of the strongest songs here. The chorus of that song in particular just knocked my socks off. And I want to read it for everyone. Don't want to weep for you, don't want to know. I'm blind and tortured, the white horses flow. The memories fire, the rhythms fall slow. Black beauty, I love you so. Like, oh my God, he just has the imagery that he uses. It's so poetic. It's so emotional, and it truly does like evoke a response in you, I think.
Hmm.
It really is something. And I felt that way through everything. Like there's also this verse in Last Goodbye I wanted to talk about. It's the very end of it when he goes, the bells out in the church tower chime, burning clues into this heart of mine, thinking so hard on her soft eyes, and the memories offer signs that it's over. Like who the hell writes that? Like,
Girl,
he writes with the emotional pain of a woman. That's why I connected
it's
so much.
yeah, it's devastating.
It's devastating.
Yeah.
Devastating. Also, Maria, I don't know. So I had like Apple Music has like a weird version. They have the Legacy Edition, but they also have, just for their normal Grace version, they have 11 songs and they have the song that was the outtake, Forget Her. included. And so the
Yeah.
first few times I listened to the record, I thought that that was just part of the record. Um, and I also, the lyrics in that I think are so beautiful. This is my
Yeah.
last lyric highlight, but the chorus of that song is, I don't know if that's the same on Spotify. I don't know if that's also like how you
Yeah.
guys,
Yes.
that is,
Yes.
okay, cool.
Yes.
Is that, this is actually good to know. Is that included then in our Holy
Yeah,
Trinity?
I would say so. Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know.
So
Um,
no.
the chorus, she was heartache from the day that I first met her. My heart is frozen still as I try to find the will to forget you somehow or forget her somehow. Oh, it's just so good. It's so good. He's so
Girl.
tortured. He really, he's kind of the OG tortured poet, if you think about it.
He so is.
Clock it.
Clock it. Clock it. He's
Don't
the
say
original
department though. This
CEO.
is Maria's episode.
Yeah. He's the torture poets, I don't know, girl, organization.
Coalition.
Chamber of
Heck.
um yeah, so I don't know. I just I really connected with this album in so many ways. I think that there were a lot of moments that I did struggle with it. And I kind of through my listenings I identified kind of two things that I think maybe put me off or like prevented me from going further into it. And I think first of all, the lyrics are so incredible. I mean, the lyrics, like I was just talking about, are absolute insanity. I don't always love his melodic choices. And I think part of that might be just his musical influences, I know, are, folk, jazz, rock, blues. Like, I love folk music, but I'm not like super into any of those other genres. And so, I think I like might be yearning for melodic sensibilities that he didn't possess and wasn't interested in. But there were just like there are moments in a lot of songs where like I'm just like I think that like these melodies could be a lot more effective and could hit harder. And I think as a result of that, looking back at the album, there are certain songs that I have kind of like a hard time like remembering exactly like what was going on. And I think if the melodies I don't know if the right because they jump around a lot and
Hmm.
I almost want him to kind of like calm down a bit melodically and be like just let the songwriting that you've done, the beautiful words that you've written kind of do the work for you because there
Hmm.
is just so much like jumping around and down the octave, then we're up the octave and we're like going all over in like one stanza. So there's a lot of that. And then that kind of also ties into the next thing is he obviously is incredibly gifted vocally. I mean, he's an amazing vocalist.
Four
There
octave
are
range.
which is crazy. There are moments though where I'm not as into it, and it's because I think the parts that I am most drawn to him is when he's at his most reserved. The parts that I'm locked in the most as a listener, and I feel that like sense of intimacy that I want from him is when he's like pulled back and he's singing very hushed and quiet and he has this beautiful like soothing dreamy ethereal tone to him. I mean, I'm thinking about like the opening of Mojo Pin or Corpus Christi or even like a lot of Hallelujah I think is very restrained. And then I think in a lot of maybe the more rock inspired songs and a lot of the songs that are maybe more like headbangers, he I don't want to say it too like simplistically, but to me it sometimes verges on from what I perceive as like over singing. Like there are moments that I just want him to kind of like sing straight, and I don't need like all like the vocal like theatrics, which I know is kind of like his artistry and like what he was doing and what was he was interested in, and that's his prerogative, that's his tea. It just sometimes like keeps me at a remove from him because instead of going further into the song, it kind of like alienates me. And I think that that's like a personal thing. I think that's just like kind of like my taste level, like my preferences. Because I just want to connect so much with the song. I want to connect with the story that he's painting, and he's painting such a beautiful story. And sometimes I can just find it hard to like penetrate the walls of like the vocal acrobatics and like the wailing and like the huge high vibrato and like the melody lines that jump all over the place. But overall, I really, really enjoyed it. I think he's so talented. I think it's the kind of album that like just doesn't really get made anymore. Like I can't imagine this album existing today. I also can't imagine like somebody like him who obviously had such a specific viewpoint, including any cover songs in a debut album, specifically three. Like, I think that is so cool. I think he
Mhm.
reinvents them all so incredibly. I mean, all three of those are like in like the top part of my album. And that's no shade to his songwriting, because again, his lyrics are like astounding. It's just he can make a song sound so his own. I mean, I've heard how many versions of Hallelujah have we heard? Like hundreds and thousands. And his version seems so new, seems so unique, seems so him. So yeah, he's a very talented, very gifted artist, and it really is a shame that he was taken from the world when he was, because I think that there just was so much art that we lost out on, and so much beauty that we lost out on because of his death. But yeah, I'm just really happy that I got to like experience this and build a relationship with it.
Thank you so much. That was so lovely. Ah, and I do get what you're saying with like kind of your assessment on the vocals and stuff. Cause yeah, I mean like I feel like it's not super often nowadays that we get like someone who's just like full on wailing. Um,
Wailing.
wailing. And it's interesting because I feel like you mentioned, there is a pretty distinct juxtaposition between when he's like singing something like very, kind of subdued or like very matter of fact, and then it's
Mm-hmm.
the insane vocal theatrics and wailing and all of that. So yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out because that is kind of a rarity, but yeah, again, it's just like unique. You don't really hear that as often as.
And I also think that like I think if I listened to this album more, like I would get more accustomed to it because my first listen that was more alienating than my subsequent listens. And so I think
Uh-huh.
part of it is just that like artists like this, specifically male artists, like don't really sing like this anymore
Yeah.
or maybe like ever. So
Right.
I think if I spent more time in the Grace world, I would probably like fall further into it, but yeah, and it's also
Mhm.
just a preference thing. Like it's just kind of like I think the way that my brain reacts to music.
Yeah. And something kind of interesting too is that I forgot to mention earlier is that like very notably he was extremely influential on Tom York of Radiohead, and they had gone to one of his shows while they were recording the Bends,
Oh,
and
interesting.
it like had an immediate impact on Tom's vocal performance for Fake Plastic Trees.
Oh,
And I kind of just gave him a different viewpoint on like singing in general.
cool.
So that's like a lot of, Jeff is a lot of the reason why, at least one single example of one of the biggest bands of all time sounds the way that they do, you know? So, very interesting there.
Yeah, very
But thank you
cool.
so much, Levi. Drew.
Yeah.
Drew, would love to hear your thoughts.
Yes. I really, really like this too. I really didn't have any other connection to it either besides hearing Hallelujah and then obviously Maria and I yapping about the Reeve Carney biopic forever, so I knew how much Maria loved this. And I kind of had an idea of the sound because I know she talked about how much Reeve was perfect for it. So I kind of knew a little bit of what I was getting into. But no, I was really into this. The songwriting was really great, and I loved how Levi and I had very similar thoughts to this. How heavy it was and how dense it is was something that I wasn't really expecting. I was listening to this at work for the first time, and I was an attempt to listen to the first time because I was listening to it and I was like, I can't like do anything else and like focus on what's going on. Like it was like very much me like trying to respond to emails and then like just this man screaming in my ears like horrid things. So I'm like, oh no, I can't do this. So actually getting to like listen to it at home with the lyrics pulled up and um like just really digesting it in that way, I think is really the best way to. Um, so yeah, I really like his like production, like Levi said. I think that, and honestly, I think the vocal performance is like my favorite part of the album. Um,
Hey.
I've never heard anything sound like this before. Um, so yeah, and listening to I was really taken with how like emotional he is like as a human, like just like how and the what I'm thinking about specifically is Last Goodbye, how like depressing that song is. And then there was a huge connection for me when listening to it because something that I know Levi and I both love is this TV series Smash, which they famously did this as a cover. Um
Last goodbye?
yeah. And I'm gonna spoil it. So if you're gonna watch Smash, like skip a few seconds ahead. But this song is sung by a character who, when they sing it, as soon as the song ends, they get hit by a car and die young. So it's like, so listening to it and then hearing it was just a lot. I was like, holy shit, like this is the song that Kyle sings when he dies in Smash. Um, but it was also one of those things where both Hallelujah and Last Goodbye, obviously, that I had heard before, even coming back to it, like I prefer his version like in everything. Like I just think that his voice is just so emotive. Someone that I don't know if Levi's gonna agree with this comparison because I know Levi like has done his research on this artist, but someone that I kept coming back to that I was getting his vibe from and how emotive they are in the not so much the lyrical content or like the production of his songs, but I kept thinking the whole time, I was like, this, Lord has some Jeff Buckley in her somewhere. In the way that they like emote and punch words at you, in
I
how
like
they
that.
sing and their acrobatics. I just got
I
so
like that.
much Lord from it. Like I don't know, and I don't know what the connection is, but I was really taken by it. I was like, I just really was getting that from it. Specifically like solar power, the way that she like um emphasizes on words and like in the songwriting because it's kind of like the songwriting is similar in the way that there are a lot of like gut punches in lyrics, especially in like his choruses, I find. And I don't know, when I was listening to it, I was like, he sings it in the same kind of way that like Lorde sings her songs, which obviously made me love it like so much more after that realization. Um,
So you're kind of referencing like kind of when you put like the emphasis on a syllable that like you wouldn't necessarily be
yes.
talking. Like I kind of think of like I do my makeup in somebody else's car.
Yes.
Like is that kind of what you're
Honestly,
like
Like,
you know
getting
what I
at?
get a lot of Jeff Buckley? I get a lot of Jeff Buckley in like the chorus of Writer in the Dark.
yes, like, yeah, like her
Isn't that
slower
like,
songs
yes,
is what I was getting. And like
Yeah.
the way that she strategically goes into falsetto and then will come down, I got that a lot in this performance in this album. Especially because Lorde does the thing where she goes falsetto to heighten emotions in her songs.
hmm,
Um, and he does the same kind of thing, I find. When he's like floating things and that sort of thing. But they also do the high, like the belting moments too. So I don't know. I got so much Lord from it. So yeah, that's really all I wanted to say besides until we get into like our top three, obviously. Um, but yeah, the vocals were something that I loved the most, I think, is what sent it over for me. I was obsessed with I there's one that I'll get to when we talk about it, but there was only one that I really didn't like, and it was because of the vocal performance. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm so happy that you chose it because also the cover that we haven't talked about, I've seen that, I feel like I've seen that image like 500 times.
he looks like
Oh
an
yeah.
angel.
I mean,
Angel,
come
hate
on.
the text though. Like, can we get rid of the text?
I don't like the text in the name, but I love the text on the title. I love like that like medieval title text.
Yeah,
Yes.
I just don't like the way his name is written. It's very
I don't
jarring to me.
either.
I eat it up, but I don't know. Yes, I mean the cover itself is so good. I think like the color palette of it with like this gold jacket and the
But
like
like,
bluish purple in the back.
yeah,
It's just so perfect. And yeah, I think the medieval font on it is
I
also
love the font.
just
I
so
like the font,
good.
but like the name is not.
The name is not my favorite
And
either.
I
is the like black kind of bar at the top inserted?
I think so.
right?
Well, I
Yeah.
was gonna say, I think it's neat because it almost feels like you're looking at the album in a record store in a bin with the name Jeff Buck. Like when you're, kind of flipping through artists and then you're like, oh, there's the name at the top. Here's all the Jeff Buckley stuff. Like that's kind of what it gives me, you know?
Okay.
Like something about it feels very like tactile. Like, oh, I can hold that.
I just don't like that font. That's just it's
Sure.
just an aesthetic thing. I just don't. I
I
think
I
that
don't
font
really
looks very cheesy.
yeah, I agree. And I don't really like text on album covers either. But I do agree. I'm not bothered by the Grace text, but I really don't like the Jeff Buckley.
Yeah, I feel like if there's gonna be text on an album cover, it has to be so uniquely stylized for me to like it.
Well, and we also like we exist in a time where like text doesn't need to be on album covers as much because of streaming, but like,
Right.
Yeah,
like 20, 30 years ago when music was all sold physically, like it kind of had to be, like text had to
right.
be on album covers a lot more so people knew what they were buying.
Right.
Right.
So it's a bit different now. I
Cool.
think people can afford to like be
Yeah.
textless in a way that
Yes,
they couldn't,
100%.
in the 90s.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Okay, Maria, I've been dying to hear you talk about it all week.
Ah! Okay. Well, oh
She
my
hates
gosh.
it.
Girl, why did I pick it? I wish I didn't pick it. No, imagine. Imagine. No, well, I mean, I think this is one of the greatest albums of all time. Like, period. I think the whole thing is just so unique in such a lovely way because I mean, like we've said before, like it's just so rare to hear this kind of like poetry and emotion from, I mean, most people, like just in general, but like a male musician. I think it's so unique. And with like, just like some of the knowledge of like what, his like relationship with his father, his life growing up, and all of his musical influences. Like, I feel like this is just such a lovely example of someone who like has a lot of strong influences, but also has such a unique and intentional, like creative direction that they can take all of that and make something so unique and also so profound. Um, and he just seemed to be so like through his music, I mean, there's obviously a lot of like really depressing stuff, but like you can just tell through, I mean, just like the historical record of like, he would sing in cafes and also just like have no problem like, cleaning up the dishes or closing up the cafe or like doing whatever, like just seemed so content really with like, you know, living and operating and breathing as an artist, like that's like sole purpose put on earth is to be an artist. And I feel like that comes through in such a unique way because like when you listen to the album, because he has such incredible lyricism, like he feels unknowable because it's like, well, how
Mm,
often is it that you know someone who can craft words together like that? Like wordsmiths like that only come
mm,
around so often. But then with the sincerity in his performance, it really feels like you know him in such a personal way. Like it really like it feels like oh like we're talking about this and that and he sang the song for me and I understand everything that's going on in his life because we're close friends. Like I just feel like it has that level of like you can really attach yourself to it and whether you're taking his word for something or kind of intertwining your own experiences with what he's saying to like relate to the music better. I just feel like it's a great conduit for like just experiencing emotions, I suppose. Um, and I feel like one of my favorite examples in the album of something kind of like transcendent like that is So Real. Because that's just such a simple thing to say. And the album, or excuse me, the song kind of just outlines like very simple everyday experiences or feelings or like sensory feelings. Like this, like the song opens and it's like, I remember the fabric of your simple city dress. That was so real. That's just so beautiful. And I'm so obsessed with it. And it's so lovely. Like those kind of just everyday experiences that, if you're kind of a hopeless romantic or even just kind of like enjoying romanticizing your own life, even if you're not in any sort of like romantic relationship, it's like, wow, I live in a big city. I live so close with all of my closest friends in the world, and I got to go on a bike ride today by the lake. That was
That's
so
so
real.
real.
That's so real. Like,
Also, the melody of that chorus.
oh,
That's one of my favorite melodies on the album. And like the production of it, it almost like doesn't sound like I feel like the way he sounds in that chorus doesn't really sound similar to the rest of the album, which I'm like really into.
yeah, because then he's doing those crazy jumps.
Yeah, and there's like a heaviness to that, like I don't know, it's
Yeah.
cool. It's really cool.
And the guitar solo in that song is really like fuzzy and twangy. And
Yeah.
and then you get the I love you, but I'm afraid to love you. And it immediately just tapers down and it's like very sensual. It's like, oh my gosh.
Girl, he's so dramatic.
So dramatic. It's so drama. And I
He
feel like,
I
oh yeah, no, go ahead.
well, I just well, this isn't profound, but I just would have loved to gossip with him. Like I think he would have been so much fun to like queen out with.
Oh my God. Oh my gosh.
Could you imagine?
The queening out that would have occurred.
I mean, this album kind of is like, what if a straight man is the best at queening out? Like, that's maybe like how I would describe Grace.
That's like the Rolling Stones quote, like
Literally, 5 stars, classic
five stars. What happens when a straight man queens out
to the max.
to the max? Oh my
That's
God.
so real.
And it was so real.
It was so real.
But like another one of my favorite moments is also Mojo Pin. And I feel like that's a cool song too because it swells so much. Like
Hmm.
the choruses of that song are just like so lush. And then it again like kind of tapers down. So I like the whole thing is so theatric. Um, and I so appreciate the Corpus Christi cover on this album, or I guess like interpretation, whatever. Because I mean, it's like I did choir when I was, in grade school. So like that used to be a huge part of my life for so long. So it's always so refreshing to be like, oh yes, a 15th century carol. I
Well,
this fits
there's
in my
also
ears.
there's just something like so spiritual about this album. I mean, like you have
Yes.
literally a hymn, you have the song Hallelujah, and something that you said earlier, Maria, that really struck a chord with me is this like sense of him being kind of like unknowable yet knowable. Like he's far
Hmm.
away yet he's close to us. Like that's kind of the way that like, people are taught to feel about religious figures like God or,
Sure.
whatever kind of higher power you believe in. I mean, there is just something like religious and holy, I think, about this record. And it's called Grace. I mean, it's like kind
Yeah,
of
I was
just
just gonna say
soaked in
that.
that imagery and it's connected, I think, a lot with that world.
Right, for sure. And I mean, not to mention that he sounds gorgeous
Yeah.
in
Well, and
that
he looks like
song
an angel. He's the prettiest human being. I want to kiss him.
ever. I mean, so yeah, it's like that upon like my like recent listen, just like preparing for the episode, like that song just like fit in my ears so well. Because every now and then I'm like, oh yeah, remember when I was in choir and that was like I lived and breathed like sheet music and it was just like everything. So it was just like so refreshing to hear that and it's just so gorgeous. But I mean, it's just the whole thing. Um, something too, it's like, I mean, you both kind of alluded to some of like the heavier moments on this. I also think it's really neat that the album goes from Hallelujah to Lover You Should Have Come Over to Corpus Christi and then huge shift into Eternal Life and then it gets a lot more heavy. And like I just think that I just really enjoyed kind of like the flow of it and how it's like, oh, you thought this was all gonna, kind of taper and just get a little bit more subdued. It's like, eh, never mind, forget it. Um, so so yeah, I mean, I don't know what else is there. What else is there to say? I mean, this is just some of the most beautiful music I think ever. again, like such an incredible vocalist. Um, Oh, I meant to. Okay, so I thought of this while you guys were talking, and I wanted to ask you because we kind of talked about like how he's such an incredible artist when it comes to covering songs and making them his own. And I feel like I mean, we know a lot of people have like covered his songs, or, obviously people kind of take to his version of Hallelujah and whatever. So I kind of wanted to ask, like, if you guys could pick an artist to cover any of the songs on this album, what would you pick?
What song and what artist?
Yeah.
Hmm.
I
Oh,
know mine.
pop quiz. Oh, you
Yeah.
do?
Yeah. I want Phoebe Bridgers to cover Last Goodbye.
Ooh.
Ooh.
That's tea.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, honestly, like I kind of want to hear what Florence would do in these songs.
Yeah, she would be amazing. Her
Like,
So Real.
I was just thinking that that was the song. I can hear the way that she would sing it. I can also hear her on Mojo Pin, but I just like I know the way she would sing the chorus of that's so real. So real. That's so real. That's not what it's called. So real. What would you say, Maria?
I don't know. Like I thought of the question, but like honest to God, didn't really have an answer myself.
Well, okay, while you think of an answer, I also had a question for you guys that I was thinking about. I'm
Yeah.
curious, do you guys have a favorite version of Hallelujah?
I think mine is his.
I
Really?
would yeah, I would say so too.
Or my
See?
eighth grade choir's rendition.
And I'm
Tea.
sure that was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
Um so the version in Shrek is just the Leonard Cohen version, right?
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't, is it? Yeah.
Because I like gaslit myself for a couple years into thinking that like they used the Jeff Buckley version. And I was like, well, they used his version in Shrek, right? And then I was like, wait, that can't be possible.
Definitely
My
not Shawn Mendes.
My favorite version is the Katie Lang version. I
Okay.
I does everyone know who Katie Lang is? The
Yes.
Slay singer-songwriter from the 90s. Oh, you hate lesbians, Maria. You hate lesbians from the 90s.
Girl.
You would know the song Constant Craving, probably.
Oh,
And
she's also in
Constant Crave. You don't know that song? Girl, everyone knows that song.
I don't think
the I know
so.
the Glee Cast version very well.
Yeah, and the Glee Cast version's amazing.
And she was in the Glee Cast version of You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch, like randomly.
What?
Yeah, go look it up. So they on the Glee Cast version of You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch, it's Katie Lang and like someone else in the Glee Cast for some random fucking reason.
I love Katie Lang.
And I
Katie
remember at the
Lang,
time, everyone was like, wait, no, it's Artie. But it was when you look at the actual like booklet
like
of the Christmas
credit, it's
album, it
Katie
was
Lang.
Katie Lang.
The hell?
I know, isn't that weird?
My aunt and my mom love her. And so like I grew up listening to her. She would play, my mom had a store growing up and she would play in the store all the time. And I just feel very nostalgic for Katie
Aw.
Lane. And she just has a beautiful, like rich tone. And her version of Hallelujah is beautiful. Definitely recommend everybody look it up.
Well, I'm gonna give a cop-out answer to my own question because I kind of can't think of anything. But one of my favorite rock bands, which is called Nothing But Thieves, has a cover of Lover You Should Have Come Over, and it's immaculate. It's amazing.
So that it exists.
So I'm gonna say that because it exists. So
T.
Slay.
sorry for being lame, but I was really having a hard time coming up with something on spot.
You were just so excited about asking us the question that you didn't think about answering it.
100%. 100%. You read my mind.
And you
Um,
know, you're valid for that.
You're
and
right for that.
my body T is validated for that.
And I gagged that clock.
And I gagged the clock.
Child T.
I really want to know what your guys' top threes are.
Okay. Well,
I'm honestly nervous. I'm
perfect.
nervous.
I'm kind
I'm
of nervous
nervous.
too, but I really want to know
This is a
because
really
I can't really predict. So,
it's a really hard one. Well, okay, well, Levi, you will go first, and let's do just the me's, so just our least favorite,
oh
and
shit.
then we'll go and do our top three.
I'm nervous. I'm
I'm nervous.
nervous. So, I don't think there's a bad song in this album. I don't. think there's songs that I connected to more than others. And what I decided was the song that I've listened to this album like a few times now. And I can't remember what the sounds like for the life of me every single time. And the song might be lovely, but like it fades in a way that the other songs don't fade, and that has to mean something. And it also, when I'm listening to it, it goes on for a long time. And there are other songs that are longer that I don't feel that way about. And it might be because it's towards the end of the album and I kind of just want to get a move on with things. But it is Eternal Life is my me. And I don't know if that is good or bad.
Drew.
Oh,
Oh. Um, my me is the only one that I could not get behind the vocal performance in it. It was not what I wanted. And then when it happened, I was like, okay. And then since I tried to listen to it again and it just was not gagging me. And I think you guys both really like it, so this sucks, but it's Corpus Christi Carol.
uh,
I
Oh,
just don't think he sounds
Jesus.
good in that song. Like, I'm
girl, you
sorry.
are on cocaine. He sounds like an angel sent from heaven. Are
Girl,
you,
that's delusional. I'm
did
sorry.
you snort some heroin before
Like,
recording this?
no, I just don't. It's just not for me. So,
Oh, so beauty, elegance, sophistication,
right.
class, not for
Class.
you.
Right, not for me. But
Okay.
I'm glad it has fans.
Drew says about a
Get it.
hymn that's been around since the 1500s. I'm glad it has fans.
It's so weird that people are like still singing it today.
I know. Corpus
It just was
Christi.
not my tea at all.
Yeah. Okay. Um,
Maria, what's yours?
so that's crazy. And I was just kind of building dramatic tension earlier, but my meat is also Eternal Life.
Yeah.
I mean that song's so good. It's so good. I love the vibe. Um, I would be bummed if it wasn't on this album because then I wouldn't hear it ever. But it does feel like the least essential track on the
Yeah.
album. Like everything else, 100 billion cajillion percent needs to be here, and this feels like the one that only like a billion percent needs to be here. You know?
That's fair.
I got you.
I mean,
I got you. I
clearly
got
I
you.
agreed with you.
Yeah. Um, I'm still so
Yeah, I'm
Oh my
gagged over
God,
that, Drew.
stop. Come on, you guys.
I'm so good. Okay, so we're gonna get into our top three songs now. So Levi, you can start us off.
Okay. Well, I am gonna say Corpus Christi is my number four. It doesn't make my top three, but it was my number
Oh, it
Same.
four.
was.
Is your number
Same.
four
It
too,
wasn't
Maria?
even in any of y'all's top three, so shut up. Like, come
Uh,
on, you guys.
Well, it's an
because it was
honorable
our
mention.
number four. Because what we just said, it was one of our favorites.
Girl, make it both your number ones and then you can complain.
You getting it? You
Uh,
getting it?
Drew's not getting it.
I'm
Not
not
getting
getting
it.
it. I don't get it.
Would we rather have Drew understand American Life by Madonna or understand Corpus Christi
American
Carol?
Life. I mean, that's the only
It's a
thing I
give and
care
a
You
about.
guys,
take.
it's not that I don't understand it. I just don't like how he sounds in it.
No,
I
but you don't get
understand
it.
it.
No, you don't
I
get. No,
think
you
that's a
don't.
fundamental misunderstanding.
It's a fundamental misunderstanding.
Right. Okay,
You don't
great.
get that
No,
he's a prophet sent by God to give you a message in
Okay,
that
I'm just
song.
cool.
no, I'm just trying to mess with you. I'm just trying to mess with you.
Yeah,
No,
So
yeah.
Levi,
do you want what I picture? I picture like a candlelit cathedral when I listen to that, and like the sky is like blue, and like it's kind
So
of
you both
Christmas.
just see God and I don't.
Yeah.
Cool.
Atheist.
Right. Okay, cool. Okay.
I don't want to comment on your religion, T. I don't know. That's for you to gag that clock. That's not for me.
I'm
Um,
not gonna clock your gag on religion.
I'm not gonna cock your God gag. That's for you. So my Holy Trinity.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Okay. Da, 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 da. My number three is Hallelujah.
T.
Um, absolutely stunning. I mean, it arrives pretty much midway in the album, and I think it's the centerpiece of the album. I think it truly to me feels like what the album is working up to. It's the longest song in the record, which I think is really cool. And like it's such a moment. And part of that's just the song itself is so powerful. I mean, it's like Hallelujah is like it's just one of the songs of all time. You know what I mean? It's just like it is that girl, and it just has such a power in and of itself. But the emotion that he brings to it, I mean, again, like I feel like he's literally David in the Old Testament singing the song "Girl." It's just gag city for me. My number two is Mojo Pin. It's a song that I've been talking about quite a bit on this podcast, obviously, this episode so far, and it's because it's gag pin. That's what it is. It's slay pin, mojo hit. That's what
Mojo
the song
gag.
is. Mojo gag child is so incredible. It's just like it's amazing. And I broke through in Maria. Maria's red. Maria's red. It's the face.
Oh,
Oh my God. You guys can't mute yourself, but I'm the only one laughing.
I like spit on myself.
I can't like ugly laugh on the
Oh my
It was funny
God.
because I thought it was funny, and then I looked down at my computer and I saw Maria like literally
Maria
rolling
was
over.
like Maria's like red as a tomato right now.
I was not expecting that at all. Oh,
Anyways, Mojo Hit is incredible. Uh like everything I said earlier, it captures this album I think perfectly. God, that opening part when he's like this body will never be safe for whatever he says, I'm like, "Oh my God, like this is sensuality." It is
yeah.
so beautiful and it's tortured, it's romantic, it's sincere, it's ridiculous, it's dramatic, it's powerful, it's just incredible. And my number one, not even on the real album, is Forget Her. It that song gagged my clock so hard. My clock
Girl.
skipped an hour. It's like
Daylight savings time.
literally daylight savings. I mean, that song, and it is the song that I've had that song stuck in my head all week. Talking about the melodies, like that melody is num 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 num. I love it, I love it, I love it. It is,
Yeah.
and we're talking about tortured poet. Oh my
He is
God,
such a tortured
it
poet.
was heartache from the moment he met her, guys. I don't think you get it.
Don't fool
Also, Levi,
yourself.
you haven't famously mentioned how you listened to Forget Her into American Life on accident.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, it was. If
It's
anybody,
crazy. I did it after.
if anybody likes to get into
Think
car
about this.
accidents and feel whiplash, just do that, and then you won't have to wreck your car. Because listening to "Forget Her" in America was the craziest thing I've ever done.
That's so
Really.
crazy because think about my heart is frozen still as I try to find the will to forget you somehow because I know you're somewhere out there right now. Do I have
Do
to
I
change
have
my
to
name?
change my name? Will it get
Will it
me
get me far?
far? Should I lose some weight?
Crazy.
It's so crazy. But yeah, Forget Her is just, she was that girl for me from the second I heard it. And I kind of got sad when it wasn't on the full album, like the original standard edition, because I was like, I don't know if it's going to count because I really wanted this to be my number one. Because to me, it represents everything I love most about the record. This
Yeah.
just like pure emotion, this pure drama. You just feel his heartache in every sense of it. You feel it musically, vocally, lyrically, melodically. It's incredible. So that's by far my number one.
I was like not expecting that, but like the second you said it, I'm like, wait, that's so Levi T.
It's so Levi
So
T.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that was your favorite. That's so lovely. Oh, well, Drew.
Okay, so my number three is Grace. Love Grace. Everything to
You
me.
love a song called Grace. You love a song called
Yes.
Grace.
Well, yes, Florence and the Machine, one of my favorite Florence and the Machine songs. Grace.
Artist's named Grace. Comedian's named Grace.
Yeah, you
Grace
do.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Gracie.
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 Grace
And her full
Grossman.
name's Gracie. It's
Oh,
not
Really?
Grace. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, I
okay,
didn't know that.
quirky.
yeah. My number two,
Senorita
it
Awesome.
what is that from?
Scream Queens.
You don't know
Oh yeah.
Senorita Awesome?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
That was just so random.
I mean, your full name being Gracie is kind of Senorita Awesome.
It's so, oh my God, she's so crazy. I love her. The girl with the bag of
Yeah.
chips on her head.
The
That is
real,
what
it's Kelsey versus
Kelsey
the real
versus the real
Kelsey.
Kelsey.
Okay, Drew, please continue.
You guys. My number two is so real.
Oh, that's so
Yes.
real.
Oh, so
Marie,
good.
Marie's being crazy.
So real, so good.
So
And
good.
my number
So
one,
gag.
my number one is, I mean, it's Last Goodbye.
You love that last goodbye tea.
Yeah, it's
It clocked your
everything.
gag.
It's everything. It clocked my gag. The gag that I had when I realized that the song Kyle gets hit by a car in Smash is a Jeff Buckley song.
Yeah.
That was gag.
That is gag.
And then it being so good.
So real.
Everything.
Oh, well,
Okay.
thank you. Oh my gosh. Okay, so you guys.
I'm so excited to see what Maria's about to say.
Yeah.
Oh,
This is really interesting. This is really interesting. So my number three is Mojo Pin.
classic serve.
I knew that would be in your top three.
Serve pin.
Serve pin.
So good. Just trying to make a new one. My number two is So Real.
That's so real.
That's so real.
So real. Number one, Last Goodbye.
Wow.
Isn't that, I mean, like, that's just
So
so
you
crazy because,
reheated both of our nachos. You took a few chips
yeah,
from mine and then a lot of chips from Drew's.
I was gonna say, I mean, like with the least favorite and the favorites, it's like a mix of both of
Yeah,
your
it
guys'
literally, you love
takes
our nachos.
on the album I chose.
Yeah.
Your guys' nachos. But yeah, I mean, I, girl, I just can't. The whole thing is just so great. And I
Yeah.
mean, these like the top three songs that I've got, like I've listened to them endlessly. Definitely the ones I've listened to the most. Um, but they're just so timeless and they're just like they are just you listen to it and it's like this will live on forever. It always will, it has to. It's just so good. I don't know.
You know what else is gaggy about Last Goodbye? Like,
What?
it's called Last Goodbye, and it's about, like, obviously saying goodbye. And it's the third track. But,
Hmm.
like, it fits so well. Like,
Girl, I'm
that would
telling
be
you,
such an excellent closer.
he's a drama queen.
Drama
Miss
queen.
Queen
Drama
says, "Last
queen.
goodbye," but I also have seven more songs.
Yeah.
But then like think about the narrative of like if Last Goodbye was right next to Forget Her.
Oh,
Well, I mean, that would just be the album just couldn't have been called Grace. It had to have been called Gag. Like it just would have been. Uh, Nobody would have been able to handle that.
I mean, literally though.
Every music publication would have changed their names. It would have been Gag Fork, Rolling Gag, Consequence of Gag, Bill Gag.
okay, okay, girl.
Okay.
Oh God. When Drew's over a joke, he lets you know.
Meta gag.
Sorry that you couldn't gag my clock.
I want the Pop Girlies updates account to do a gag counter for this episode.
My God, that'd be a great drinking game. You would get like
Oh
You
my
would,
God.
liver failure.
Or hydration station, you drink some water every time we say gag.
Hydration. Yeah, Alex,
Oh,
my boyfriend, he doesn't drink any water. When he's right next to me. When you listen to this album, not this album, this episode, every single time we
he
say the
won't
word
listen to the
gag,
album.
drink a sip of water. You're gonna be so hydrated.
and keep a tally, please.
H2 gag.
At least 50.
Girl. Oh, okay. So that's my top three. So now we're gonna get into our scores out of 10 for the album. So each of our uniquely dubbed utensil ratings. Maria
Right.
Fork, Drew. No, my
Maria
God, sorry.
Fork. Yeah, that's
Sorry, I was doing some revisionist history for a second. Um, Drew Fork, Maria Spoon, Levi Knife. So Drew,
Levi
let's hear your
Knife
score.
when K Drew Forks, stab it.
I was having a hard time figuring out a score because it's obviously like so fantastic and so legendary and gag. However, I don't know how much I'm gonna come back to all of the album, but it's objectively great. So it's kind of hard because you have to like, I think it is more objectively great than how much I personally like it. So with that, I'm gonna go with an 8.5.
T.
Yeah.
Slay.
Okay.
K Maria
Yeah.
Spoon. Scoop it up.
10.
Wow!
This is a
Wow,
10.
Maria, this is your third 10 ever.
That's crazy. So we've got Renaissance and In Rainbows
And
Yeah.
then Grace.
and Grace.
And then Blue got close to it last week. Blue
Race.
was your
Oh yeah.
closest. Blue was 9.8.
Hmm.
Gaga hasn't touched.
Yeah, Gog can never. Ended flop ga. Collab
Collab
ga.
ga.
Hip ga.
Hip ga. Dang. Fad ga.
Fad ga. She literally is a fad ga.
Yeah. I don't, we can talk. I mean, I don't know. I feel like we've talked about our philosophies for the scores like
Yeah,
a
yeah,
couple
yeah.
times.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's just, I don't know. It's just a thing.
It's a 10 for you.
Yep.
It's a 10 for
Okay,
you.
Levi.
Okay,
I
Levi.
actually was thinking the exact same scores, Drew. And I'm not going to do
Okay.
that thing that I did that was annoying to him in Rainbows, where he gave a 7.9 and then I give an 8.
When I
Uh,
gave it 7.9 and I talked about liking the album, you're like, yeah, I really, I don't know if I liked it
that is not
as
what,
much.
that is a
And then you went in
simplistic,
point one higher.
that is a simplistic
It
take
is
on
very
what I said,
simplistic.
girl. Rewind the tapes. Let's go back. Um, yeah, 8.5. I did think
Okay.
about it for a second. I was like, what if I did an 8.6 just to piss him off? But um,
I would scream.
I decided to be a kindness punk today. Okay.
Amazing.
And with that,
Chromatica,
the
the planet of Chromatica still has one resident, and it's Levi.
No.
yes. Well, that's
Levi
not
was
true.
first to leave.
First to
I,
leave
I was exiled. Um, I was the first patient of the Mayhem Asylum because I
of
got
the
kicked out of
mayhem disease.
Chromatica. Yeah.
The
Okay.
disease outbreak on planet Chromatica.
Oh my God. Why do we always devolve into this? Like right around the
Yeah.
score, we devolve into just like nonsense. My
Yeah.
mom is
This whole
probably listening to
episode
this
has
right
been
now and is like, what?
nonsense.
But not really though, because for the first like 40 minutes, we was very good and contained. I mean, when Maria was explaining the story, I was feeling it. And I thought that we were all very eloquent in our stories and opinions. And then we just started saying the word
It
gag a
went
thousand
crazy.
We
times.
started gagging our clocks, and then it was just too far gone.
I
Okay,
mean,
okay, okay.
Mojo Gag hit us, and
Oh
we
my God.
couldn't
That's where
recover.
it fell off. That's
I
where it
mean,
fell
Yeah,
off.
that's where it fell off.
okay, the average score for Grace is a equal 9. So
Okay,
great average
Nice.
score, and that's
her.
I think that's
I'm
it.
into that. Well, Drew, do you want to tell us what we're doing
Yeah.
next?
Yeah, I'm really excited about next week's episode. We're doing a new release, so on the ground journalism from your favorite pop girlies. But it's actually from an artist that like was my kind of first introduction to like fan culture, that sort of thing. So it's actually Ariana Grande's new Eternal Sunshine Deluxe edition. It's called Eternal Sunshine Deluxe Brighter Days Ahead. So
Yes.
we're gonna listen to the whole thing in full. Hopefully, we'll have some new things to talk about with the deluxe tracks, and then also just give our thoughts on the OG.
Uh,
Yay!
we can't be friends. That's a good song.
Mm,
But
yeah,
I mean, that
always
clocked
good,
my
girl.
gag. Yeah.
We can't be gag.
We can't be gag. Wait for your gag. But Maria,
Wait
thank you
for you.
for introducing us to Mr.
Yes,
Buckley.
thank
Um,
you.
and
Yes.
I don't know, I'm
Um,
just thinking about like I just really think it's so sad that he's gone. I mean, obviously,
yeah.
like he's been gone for so long, but it really is just so tragic. Like I'm kind of starting to get
Hmm.
weepy. Oh my God, I'm about to start crying.
Oh my
Like
God. Okay.
it's okay. God, what the heck?
Why'd you have to gag his clock so fast?
Yeah, you hate my cry tea.
Your
IT
tear
Brienne
tea.
collection.
But no, really, it's just I don't know. It's just so sad.
It's
Imagine like
so
the
sad.
legacy that he would have had. I mean, he obviously has such a beautiful legacy now, but like, you know what I mean? Like, I
Oh
think
Yeah.
that
yeah.
like, I think he would still be going at it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just really sad. Life is really crazy.
Well, thank you so much for listening to this album with me, you guys, and going on the
And
journey.
Reeve,
Super
get up and
glad we got to
work.
talk about it.
Yeah, get up and work. It seems like nobody wants to work these days.
Whoever was producing it, please employ Reeve Carney again. Stat. We need it. Okay.
That would get
Well,
him A-list.
it literally would. It would
Oh
be
yeah.
his like Austin Butler Elvis moment.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
I
All
need to
right,
go
Pop
get drunk in
Girlies.
some lilac wine that's calling my name.
You took mine.
Oh, sorry.
I need to go be so real right now.
Maria, what do you got to go be? You're mad.
Well, you already got me mad. Um, well, I don't know. This is our Pop Girlies. This is our last goodbye.
Forget her.
Forget, forget her. Okay. I
Okay.
don't know. It's our last
Bye,
Okay.
Pop
goodbye.
Girlies.
Bye, Shanti.
Bye.